Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Wow Ergonomics. Now, if you were wondering where we were last Friday, we were here. You were somewhere else. That's why it didn't happen. But basically, with the summer holidays and everything that was going on, we did really well. We were keeping in sync, and then suddenly, for one reason or another, probably because I was out pressing rhubarb or other drinks are available, it just didn't happen. But we're here now, and that's the only thing that really matters. We've got a special guest for you today as well, the wonderful Vicky Midwood, who will be coming on to speak to us in a minute. But before that, let's catch up with Steven Howe.
Hello. We haven't spoke for ages, have we? In fact, you messaged me the other day and said we haven't spoke for ages, and it's like, do you know what? Weeks. We usually speak 2 or 3 times a week, and I think it was weeks since we last spoke. So no, it was it was funny. I was last Friday because we'd got completely out of sync. I was there working, and at 12:05, a message came up in LinkedIn, and it was great. It was someone asking where we were.
I know.
Someone who was waiting for the show saying, "Where are you?" And I said, we're just because of holidays and whatever.
We did it on purpose. We did it on purpose just to see if people actually missed us.
Treat them mean, keep them keen. Is that what we were doing?
That's exactly what we were doing. Now, just before we came on, I've confused you, didn't I?
You did, because we've got the show now, which we're doing, but on my phone it says you've got a My Music interview with Steve Howe, and I thought, I don't really, whilst I know my music, I'm certainly not sure you could make a podcast out of interviewing me about music. But I then remembered there is a musician, not called Steven Howe, called Steve Howe, isn't there?
There is. And I spoke to Steve Howe yesterday.
Right.
So it's all in the bag. It's all done. There you go.
And what band's he in? Or is he a solo?
No, it was. He has a solo career, and I was talking about the re-release of 2 of his seminal albums. It's always a great word, isn't it? Seminal. One is a Portraits of Bob Dylan album that he did with a number of guest superstars on, including people like PJ Arnold, etc.
I thought you were going to say PJ and Duncan for a minute. I was thinking,
yeah.
Call that seminal.
No. That would be something else. Semolina. But he's best known as being guitarist and sort of backup singer in Yes. Obviously one of the biggest prog bands ever. Of course, he then started the supergroup Asia. People remember Asia as well, and did a little supergroup as well called GTR with Steve Hackett from Genesis.
Yeah.
So there you go. Basically, the man's a beast, and he one of the albums that we were talking about was an album that he created called Natural Timbre with his son Dylan, who's a drummer, where he plays most of his personal collection of guitars, of which he's got there were about 20 guitars on this album. And one of them dates back to the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Now, you said something there before we get our guest in, but I must ask you about this because you're a music aficionado. You mentioned there about supergroups, and I always remember 80s, 90s, there was always groups that were formed from other groups. You know, you'd got things like, and I'll forget the names, but the House Martins went to be in, help me out.
Beautiful South.
Yes, but then you had people who almost a bit like football transfer deadline. You had people who moved between groups, and because Alison Moyet, I remember Jimmy Somerville and people, they were in different bands, and all bands came together. That doesn't happen anymore, does it?
Communards.
Yes.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. You sort of she was in
Yazoo with Vince Clarke. Yep.
Why does that not? And Vince Clarke was then, of course, was in.
Oh, he was in Depeche Mode.
But nobody was also. Who was he in as well? After
Erasure.
Why does that not happen anymore? Why do we go and get these people sort of jumping around all over the place? Is it just now they just do collaboration rather than officially being in the gang?
It does happen. It does happen occasionally. It still happens in the rock world. We do. We still do see it happen. We have people like Mike Portney from Dream Theatre. He drummed for Avenged Sevenfold for a while. It does still happen. Queens of the Stone Age. There's a good example. Them Crooked Vultures. That was a super group with Dave Grohl. And John Paul Jones.
Didn't they come together for something?
Well, there you go. McBusted.
McBusted, that's it.
Yeah. No, it does still happen, but not as often.
It was a big thing back then. It wasn't back then. It was a big thing, wasn't it? This sort of people moving around, collaborating and squashing groups together and splitting groups up and all that sort of stuff.
I think it's because people have got too bigger egos these days. And also, potentially the contracts would just be too difficult to work out legally.
Yeah.
Right. Just imagine
image rights and all that sort of stuff with online.
Imagine if suddenly like Chapel Roan and Sabrina Carpenter decided that they were going to form a super group with somebody. I mean, it just the legal element of that
ramifications.
Would probably put a stop to it before it even started. There we go. Anyway,
sorry, we digress, but it was always interesting to kick off with music.
If you've enjoyed watching this and you like your prog rock from the 1970s and 80s, well, you can go and check out my interview with Steve Howe after this. If you don't,
this one.
Then don't bother. We will now talk to the wonderful Vicky Midwood, who's come to talk to us today. Vicky.
Hi, thank you.
Are you a music fan at all?
I absolutely am, and my ears pricked up when you said Avenged Sevenfold. You don't hear many people talking about them, and I think they're fantastic. It's on a CD. I know, CD in my car.
Oh, there you go. That's quite heavy. So you like a bit of heaviness.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Yes, especially very loud when I'm on my own in the car, and I think I can sing.
I'm sure you can.
We've all been there. We've all been there. In the car, it's great. You know, imagine if you could, like you're all going down the motorway or whatever, and then it gets to like a traffic jam and everything stops. And imagine if all of the windows did go down. They wouldn't, because the smog would like make everyone choke. But imagine if the windows went down and you could actually hear what everyone was singing. I mean, some cars, it wouldn't be very good. It wouldn't be a pleasant thing. You know,
I must admit, I do exactly that. If I am in a jam and I am on my own, my windows do go down and I play loud.
Yeah, I love that. If you're out there, by the way, folks, and you ever get caught next to Vicky in a traffic jam, do record some of it. Just let us know what it sounds like. Vicky,
but
tell us a little bit.
Not whilst you're driving your car, though. Not whilst you're driving your car. Though.
Only in a jam.
Yes.
Yeah. Only if your vehicle is stationary.
Yes.
Vicky,
yes.
Do tell us a little bit about you.
Right. So, well, basically, I help business owners to increase their energy for peak performance in 30 days. Because I feel that. Yes, because I do it because I've been in the world of health and wellness, and I have watched the world change massively in terms of what people believe and what is actually true and how we function. And what I recognized over the years is that most people have no clue how they work as humans. And we have been programmed since little tots going to school to actually work against our body and our brain. Right. And so what I do is get people who are smart, and they tend to be entrepreneurs, CEOs, professionals who like to understand stuff, not right in the weeds, but enough to go, that doesn't make sense. That is pretty stupid. Let's work with our body and brain and not against it, so that we can have enough energy to enjoy life outside of work.
Oh, loving all of this. Right. I mean, this fits in really beautifully with what we like to talk about. Now, quick one.
Yes.
Before we dive into it, we've talked about in the past on here, because you mentioned it, we've talked in the past about the fact that maybe, just maybe, one of the reasons we struggle with certain tasks when we're not sat down but stood up or doing in a different position at work comes from the fact that as kids at school, we're taught to sit down to learn stuff or do certain things. Is there any kind of, from what you know, any kind of science to that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Because how we are programmed to behave, we connect neurologically to the position of the body and the activity that we are doing in that position. So it makes sense. And this is where you'll recognize that there's a lot of people who have neurodiverse brains who actually learn better lying down on their tummy on the floor. And there are people who will learn better standing up. But can you change it? Can you retrain it? Yes, because the brain's plastic. So hurrah. But yeah, you're right.
Be a bit odd in an office, though, wouldn't it?
Everyone's just lying down.
Yeah. Look, it depends on where you work. But if you are going to be more productive and more efficient and you just like to lie on the floor and do your stuff, why not? That's what I say.
You see, what I find fascinating is how do you ever get to that point? So you've got someone who's struggling to learn, and then from somewhere someone goes, why don't you just lie on the floor and see if it, how does that come about? How does, what's the sort of the thought process behind?
You know, as a kid, right? You just know as a kid, and it gets basically, I was going to say beaten out of you, but we don't do that anymore. But basically we get told that that's not how you should do it. And you should do it a different way. So we go against how we function, which is madness.
Yeah. Is this one of the reasons why, when the big C happened, COVID, and the world of work got thrown into a difference, right? And that lots of people had to go and work from home, etc., that suddenly people went, oh, do you know what? I can do this now. I can work in that way, whereas before, all the time in the office and when I've been working with other people, I couldn't lie on my belly, but now I can.
Yeah,
and it's rather good. Yeah,
I think also we were given the space and the opportunity to figure out for ourselves if we never had that experience, we would have all stayed doing exactly the same stuff and not recognizing that there was a better, more efficient, more effective way for us. So I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm quite grateful for the craziness of how badly we handled COVID, because it allowed a lot of people to actually discover a lot of things that they didn't know they were able to do.
Yeah, no, totally get that. But is the problem with any kind of work mode, if you like, the fact that we are ourselves, right? But we're not an island. We exist within a community of other people, and when you're at work, you have to exist alongside other people and other people working. It's part of the problem always with any of this stuff, that we have to kind of adhere to certain rules because of
society,
the norms of society, or the norms that we put into place. How far can we go pushing those? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, think about it. If you like, look, we're just humans. We're animals.
Yeah.
Right. We're not that different. We're not that different in terms of indeed, in terms of what we actually require. We want to feel safe, and we want to feel a part of. Right. And so when we are kids, we are in an environment where we are connected. We create a community because that's safety in numbers, right? If you're out in the wild and you go off on your own, you might get eaten. So you stay with the pack. So we learn this stuff, right? And it makes sense. It's about survival. So yes, we do have to get on with people. And school basically tries to teach you how to do that, to prepare you for what's coming up as an adult in the world of work. So we do need to learn how to get along with people, because it means that life will be easier for everybody. And that is ultimately going to probably keep us safe and help us to feel a part of.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually, Stephen. A long time ago when I did a human factors course at Osman Ergonomics, shout out to Osman Ergonomics. Part of the thing that came up in that, which was really interesting, was the psychology behind sort of open plan offices and sort of behavior in there. And one of the things that was said was that one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like clear desk policy and people kind of like gather stuff around their desk or whatever, it literally goes back to like cave thinking and almost like trying to build a safety structure around you here, and then you leave the cave to go out when you feel safe, and then you want to come back to a cave, and that still exists in our mindset. But you know, and that it's fascinating.
And this is why we've got to recognize this. You're talking about working with our brain, how we are designed to function. And the oldest part of the brain, if you like, the reptile part of the brain, is designed to stop us from dying. Now, that's really an important distinction, not to keep us alive, to stop us from dying, which means it's always on alert for threat, because threat equals death. Right, it's as simple as that, as far as the brain's concerned. Wow. It's also designed to use as little energy as possible. It's really energy efficient. So once it knows that this environment, whether it's particular things on your desk or how your chair is or which way you're facing, that helps you to feel comfortable and calm and safe, which equals I'm not going to die, right? Your brain will automate it and go, okay, remember this, brain. This is how we as a human function best and feel safe. And we're not going to die. So keep doing that. And this is where we recognize that when something is out of place, we kind of don't feel quite right. There's something missing, right? Because that's the part of the brain that's automated the safety factor, and it's going, shit, there's a piece missing. Threat. We might die, right? We won't. But there's a lot of stress equals threat, right? And this is what we've got to recognize. And when people talk about, you know, what works best for one person and it doesn't work best for another, and this is where we've got to learn. It's about getting on with people and accepting. Just because you love a clear desk and that's your safety zone doesn't mean that the person next to you is going to feel safe and happy working in that way. And ultimately at work, what are we there to do? Produce, perform, do the best that we can as humans. And so it makes sense that we should be able to create the environment where we can actually achieve that.
Now, Stephen, here's a great one for you then.
Go on then.
Taking on for this. Is then in your experience, is the one thing that makes us ultimately human therefore, the one thing that makes it hardest for you to sell what you do to people, but also when they have brought into it, makes it the best thing about humans in order to sell your product. Again, in other words, right, how many times do you go up and say, wouldn't it be good if you could try this on your desk? And you get kickback because people are like, but you know, right? But when people have brought into it and their brain's gone, this is now part of my sanctuary. They don't want to ever let that go. Is that true?
I think it is. I think it's totally right. And I mean, I go with what we do. I'll break it down into product because that's what we do. We make products that help people and help productivity. But a classic one, Graham, I always find is when we introduce someone to like a new mouse. So something as basic as a mouse. And when you show people ones that are a little bit different, whether it's a vertical mouse or whether it's some sort of neutral or central mouse or a different product, you can see the barriers come up immediately. Because obviously, hang on a second, I'm not, for the last 30 years, I've worked in the office and I've never done that. There's resistance. There's always resistance. Then, though, when you say to them, look, once you've used this, you will not go back to that product. I guarantee it. And they do it and they go, you're absolutely right. And then they're almost your biggest, you're turning someone from who's sort of pushing back against you to your biggest advocate. By giving them the opportunity to experience something that's going to make their working experience a lot better. So you're right. Once there's natural resistance as a human, but then that flips itself on its head, and then they become your biggest advocate once they've bought into it, and then they're using it, and that becomes their way of working. So you're right, absolutely correct, Graham.
So Vicky, understanding what's going on with people here is so helpful, isn't it?
Totally. And this is where, we're just not taught this. And it seems like the most obvious stuff that, we resist because it's unfamiliar. That's all. We're scared of the unknown. Unknown equals threat. You might die. Right. So we always want to do the known and the familiar because it's easy.
Mouse.
yeah. You're going to kill me. But when we are open-minded enough to give it a go, and I would imagine, Stephen, is that the hardest bit, is getting them to just try it.
Yeah.
Because once they do try it and they go, oh my God, this is even better than my previous one. Yeah, of course they're sold. But oftentimes the resistance is so powerful, the fear is so great that people will just refuse. I'm guessing you get this. They won't even they won't even go there. Yeah. Yeah,
you will, and it can be any product that we do. You'll always get some people where that fear and that stress factor is so high that whatever you do, you can't convince them.
Yeah,
and you have to let them, with those people, you have to let them come round. With those people, what works best is when they see others doing it.
Yes.
And then they buy into it and they go, oh, hang on a second. He hasn't died over there from using that. Death hasn't struck him. So why don't I give it a go? So that's, you're right. You can convince a portion, another portion, they have to be convinced by other people, seeing it with their own eyes. And then slowly they come round to it.
But I would argue that you're not convincing them. You're just giving them permission to try something different.
Yeah.
And that's a big, and that's a whole different ball game, because now it's an opportunity. And you did use that word. You said it's an opportunity. And this is, again, going back to what you said, Graham, about we want to be like part of a community, and we do. So there are always going to be leaders. There's always going to be the one who jumps in. Oh, it's new. Let me try it. Right. There's going to be those. And then there's always going to be the ones who hang back. And I'll just wait for the kind of the third or the fourth person to just help me to feel absolutely certain that this is a good thing. And then I will do it. And this is where we look at, where do we actually come from and how do we all function? And we all do have this, and it's so unconscious. We don't know. It's just how I am. Right.
Right, Vicky, with what you do, what are the sort of like biggest red flags that you see out there in the workplace at the moment in terms of people's health? There's
so many of them. This crazy belief that if you work harder, you'll be more productive.
That's the what do we call that, Graham? We call that the what was the big? That's the Goldman Sachs effect, wasn't it? Remember we had that years ago, or a couple of years ago, where people working 90-hour weeks and things like that, almost as a badge of honor.
Yeah. I call it the 28-hour day.
Right. Yeah. And I think
8 days a week.
I think that's a big one. The other one is also being proud of the fact that I can get by on 4 hours sleep. And that's just stupidity. That's all that is. Absolute stupidity.
But let's face it, that was started by a certain prime minister in the UK. I'm not going to talk about any kind of political persuasion, but that was. Do you remember that was started at a time when
but
certain prime minister declared to everybody that they could get along with that sort of sleep, and I think from that time onwards, people have been, and. You know what? There is a quasi-political element to this, because that came off of a back of a period of really difficult times in the UK. When I don't know whether you remember, but was it under Heath? We were at a 3-day week for a while because of economic strain or whatever. So it almost, I feel like there was a whole generation that got kind of brainwashed into.
Absolutely. It was the 80s.
If we don't want that to happen again, you got to work your socks off.
Right. Yeah. And yes, and I completely agree. And this is where the bit that we don't understand about humans is, look at all three of us on the screen. We're not all the same. We all work differently. And Margaret Thatcher, which is who you're talking about, is part of the 1% of people that can function on a little amount of sleep. And there are that 1% of people, right? And to pretend that they don't exist, that would be ridiculous, right? But there are also equally another small percentage of people who require significantly more than the average as well, right? And they are people who are, again, probably 1 to 2%. But if you are somebody who cannot function like that, or you can, but it's dangerous and detrimental to your health, then why would you even try to do it? It makes no sense whatsoever when we know more mistakes, more deaths are caused by people falling asleep at the wheel, for example. Yeah, it used to be drunken driving, but now it's people falling asleep at the wheel, right?
I think people try to do it though, Vicky, because of social media, do they not? I think people try to do it because of the so-called influencers out there who fill us full of stuff every day. Like, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and
I do.
And at 5 o'clock I'm in the gym, and I've done 2 hours in the gym, and I've cracked all my emails by 6 o'clock, and then I'm I'm doing this, and I'm taking the kids to school, and then I'm working. I do like 5 jobs, and it just gets more. Do you know? It's like the 4 Yorkshiremen sketch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yorkshiremen sketch. Yeah,
and you were lucky.
Vicky, I was going to say it's interesting because we referred to them as the people or those people, but from your experience and your research, what does this look like from a male-female proportion? You know, and also from an age categories, maybe 20 to 30s, 30. You know, I don't know whether you've got such data, but is the one sector of the workforce? Is it predominantly a male thing? Is it predominantly a male of a certain age? Is it all ages, both sexes?
I'm not a great fan of globalizing things, but on the whole, for people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, who've kind of been brought up in the same era that I was, and from talking to you guys, probably similar.
Yeah.
There was that definite programming of you work hard, you play hard, this is what it looks like. And I think now with the younger people, that is changing. I would say the majority of younger people are so in their heads about status and academic results that they don't actually look beyond that in terms of how will that kind of play out in a workspace scenario. But in terms of what the influencer's saying, it depends on where is your kind of tribe, because we're in a world now of podcasts. We're on one. There are tons of podcasts that are advocating very sensible advice with some top people who have been in the health world, a bit like me, for over 30 years, saying the same stuff, not falling for the fads, but actually going, do you know what, let's work with the body and how the body works, because that's kind of how you're going to stay, hopefully, dis-ease free and illness free. But the majority of people, younger people, will listen to the influencers. And this is why for a lot of them, they are in a state of kind of almost freeze because they don't know what to do. There's too much information. So in terms of, is there a specific gender thing? No, it depends on who you are as a female or a male. There are driven people. There are A-type personalities who want to strive, succeed, be the best. And thank God for them. We need them. Right. But there were also people who are quite happy to just kind of sit in the middle. And as long as I can make enough money and do what I need to do, I'm also going to be sensible in terms of I want a quality of life and I want a family life. In other words, they have a more balanced look at their priorities. Yeah. People I work with do tend to be more business comes first, family comes second, until they either hit at some kind of a health issue that makes them literally take stock, or a divorce, right? Yeah. Or the other one, which is very interesting, younger, i.e. late teens / early 20s family members saying, what the fudge are you doing? Yeah, because you're going to miss out on me and my family, etc., if something doesn't change. So interesting. But
so it's often an external event then. It's not always self-realization. It's usually an external factor that makes people change.
Usually. I mean, I'd love it if that wasn't the case, but for the majority of people, it's how we work. We think we're getting away with it. We will do it until we no longer are. Yeah. And sometimes that is what is required.
That's really interesting that the children saying that and that being the motivator. I mean, what happens when mum and dad are both career driven?
I think what tends to happen in that dynamic is it's rare that they're both in the same career. Sometimes it is, but usually
I see it quite a lot on LinkedIn.
Okay, right. But often they're not.
Must be true then.
And they work out a way of being able to divide their time with the kids, etc., etc. Is there always one dominating kind of career path? Yeah. Usually marginally. There's never an absolute equal balance. But normally what tends to happen is they figure it out. And these are people who basically who understand how they work and the importance of switching off and rest and family time. And that doesn't mean sitting around doing nothing and eating pizza and just being a slob watching Netflix. What it means is actively doing stuff, but that is not focused on work. And these are the smart people who recognize that actually doing that sort of stuff makes them perform better at work. Because often the best ideas come, the best creativity happens when you're not forcing it, when you're doing something completely different. And so these tend to be the people where they already know that they want to be able to spend time with grandchildren, and they have created, hopefully, some kind of role model for their own kids. But in answer to your question, is it usually somebody who has a life event or something that happens? Yeah, it could be a career loss. If somebody's made redundant, that is often an opportunity for them to go, what the heck? What am I doing with my health? Yeah, so there could be multiple things. It could be the death of a parent, but yes, it usually is an external thing.
Is there another kind of person these days though? Is there a person where it's like, life is work, work is life, right? Because that is something we're seeing more and more and more. And actually, then when it comes to the children, they kind of bring the kids into that, right? I'm seeing a lot more of that where it's like, it's both parents work, they've got kind of a career that kind of overlaps together, and then in posts and whatever, they're bringing the kids in. It's almost like there's no separation between when they're at work or when they're themselves. They put the everything that they do online, they make their money out of that, etc. And is that healthy for us? Is that unhealthy for us? I mean, it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
Well, here's the interesting thing. So it depends who you are thinking of, but the people who I'm thinking of who very much follow that sort of dynamic, they already prioritize healthy habits.
Right.
Okay. And that's what enables them to be able to make work life and life work, because they already look after how the body and brain functions.
Yeah.
And so are they teaching the kids to do the same? Yes. And so this is where it's not an afterthought. They exercise as part of their work life. That's just what I do. Right.
But that's quite often what how they make their money.
Right. And I eat healthy food, and I cook from scratch, and I make that a part of. So these people are a living, breathing example of living, right? Because living is work and life and kids. We're not living in separate compartments. And that's, I think, where people try and get it wrong, because there's no such thing as a work-life balance, right? Because this is what happens. Right?
So should we all just be gym bunny influencers? Should we all just eat salad? Right, be on a continual diet, go to the gym every morning, get ripped, and then just put all of it online and go, look at me, I'm amazing. You could have this too. And then we end up with a world where we've just got one gym bunny competing against another gym bunny online for the one person who's overweight who needs them. I mean,
have you got something against gym bunnies? I'm sort of sensing a bit of either envy or anger. I can't work out which one it is.
I just wonder where it all goes, if you know what I mean. It's just that one of my problems with any of that is we can't all be that.
Correct. No. And that gets back to what I said. We're all individuals. We can't all be Margaret Thatcher living on 4 hours sleep. Why would you try to be? You're not. You don't have her problems, her issues to solve. You don't live where she lives. You don't have the people around you she has, right? So you look at yourself. How does my body feel and function? Do I even like going to the gym? Because if you don't like it, don't flipping well go. Do something else.
Boring as, really.
But, and the issue, I think, is that
I like the cost of coffee in the gym.
We're thinking,
coffee
right,
shops are available.
but we're thinking that we've got to somehow copy other people. And the folks that I work with, and this is why, to be fair, I do work with professionals and CEOs, because they know that they're not meant to copy others. They are the type of people who will be the influencers, if you like, but they're not really bothered because they don't really care. What they care about is, have I got the energy to spend quality time with my family and my friends doing stuff that I like? And can I still actually feel motivated and find some joy in the work that I do? And that is what the majority of people I work with are striving for. Now, are we always going to get an exact balance in those? No, there will be times when work has to take a priority, right? You'd be an idiot to think that you shouldn't then work towards that. If there's an issue that's going on with family, then you know what? Drop work. It will wait. You go sort out your family stuff. And it's recognizing that as humans, the thing that differentiates us, we hope, not always, from animals, is that we have this newest part of the brain, which is slower, but it's the part that allows us to make decisions. And it allows us to weigh up and actually prioritize things and not always be living in survival mode. But the majority of us don't know how to do that. And one of the hardest things that I find when I work with people who do come to me and go, I'm fed up of feeling sick, tired, unmotivated, worn out, and like I'm on a hamster wheel that never ever switches off, is that they don't know how to prioritize. They don't know how to prioritize, and they don't know how to communicate what they actually need, because they're not used to giving themselves permission to tune into their own needs. And that, I think, is what you're seeing these people who are influencers are doing. But we're always going to be drawn to extremes, right? We are humans, right? But the best stuff happens in the gray area. It always does. And the most important thing, a bit like Stephen was saying with what he offers to people, he doesn't have just one thing. He has multiple things. Why? Because people are curious. Different things will appeal to different people. Find the stuff that you like, get curious. Crucially, give yourself the opportunity and the permission to try it and it not be the right thing, and go, okay, cool. Give me something else. Let me try that. And that's what we don't allow ourselves to do, because I think of society and this, oh, it was the wrong thing. You failed. That was rubbish, right? And this is where I think we've got to recognize that if we just start to honor ourselves and start to get to know ourselves and recognize we're not all the same, hooray, instead of, oh shit, we're not all the same, oh no, then we can thrive in a way that means we're not all burning out left, right, and center, and we're not getting an increase in every single illness and disease going.
Now, I get all of that, but going back to like the primordial thing, well, actually not primordial, because back in the day they didn't have this, but I'm sure they just exchanged berries and stuff. But at some point in our evolution, we invented a monetary system, and we invented the exchange of goods for money and etc. Now, isn't one of the kind of instincts that kicks in with people, and one of the reasons why people drop boundaries and do stuff when they shouldn't be doing it, even though they know that actually they should be prioritizing family or their health or something else or whatever, is they go, bills, I have to pay bills. If I don't pay the bills, then it impacts everybody here. Someone comes, they take the house, they take the car, they take all of the things that everybody needs to live. We don't get food, etc. So they start to go in their head, I have to do this, right? Even though it goes against the boundaries that I've put up, because if I don't do that, I won't get paid. All of this other stuff is going to happen. And then my life and everybody's life around me will be worse. Is that, I mean, isn't that a fair assumption? Yeah,
totally real. And this is where everybody's circumstances are different. And So you work with it, but people don't know that there is a way to work with it.
Right.
If you are looking at it in a I have to, I must, but you're in a job that you hate, what are you saying to yourself in your own head about that? Are you creating a prison in your own head that's saying, I have to stay here forever and it's horrible and my life is shit? What are you saying to yourself in your own head? Because if you are loving your job and it's paying the bills and you like it, but the family are complaining that there's not enough time with them, then this is where it's about a conversation. How can we change that slightly? Could you, for example, go into work a little bit later and actually sit with the family and have breakfast? Is that a possibility? Could you potentially get off work one day a week and be able to participate and watch one of your kids' after school activities or games, right? In other words, make it a part of. This is where, again, we're a little bit dumb, so many of us as humans. It's programming and it's from childhood. We learn it at school and we learn it from parents. Bless parents, they've got so much to answer for, and I am one. And yes, we're all in the same boat. We all pick it up. But my point is, we teach our kids that it's this or it's this, that it's an either or an or. No, no, and no. It's always and. Right? You can work and you can have family time. You can work hard and you can enjoy rest and relaxation. You don't have to pick one or the other. And when I'm working with younger people and they know that they want kids, I'm really hot on helping them to recognize, stop teaching your children that it's an either or. Right? Do you want the red t-shirt or the blue t-shirt? No, give me the green one and the yellow one. Which one appeals to you today? Pick that one instead of it being an either or. And if we can just walk around more just going and. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely right. I think a lot of the problem comes though because of I think clients, for example, or I think relationships in business. I think people put a lot of pressure on other people. I think there's a lot where maybe like somebody will say to Stephen, for example, well, we've got to make this happen. The pressure gets pushed from one person to another, and I think it's really difficult dealing with those pressures because it almost the buck doesn't stop with us. The buck stops with all of the people who are privy to that kind of overall conversation. And unless the whole culture changes, and like the people, the clients don't moan about it to the company, and then the bosses don't moan about it further down the line or whatever. People walk around with this sense of guilt that they need to be doing this because if they don't do that, those people have got a problem, and that's where it comes from, right?
Right. Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I think culture is something that we need to obviously look at. And that's something that I do when I'm consulting in companies. The first thing we audit is the company culture. Because if the company culture has been there for decades, then, and the person at the top isn't open to recognizing that actually it's the culture that needs to change, I walk away. I can't help, right? Because I will be batting my head against a brick wall. Go somewhere else, because you will be literally putting sticking plasters on a broken leg. It's not going to work, right? At the end of the day, we have to have from the top people recognizing that a culture shift across the board is what is required if we want people to prioritize health. Because ultimately, the healthier you are, the better you perform, the more productive you will be. It's not rocket science. It's how we work, right? Yeah. But if you are being pressured to do things, then this is where, and you mentioned it, conversation, right? What are we saying? I have to, I must. Or is the conversation how can we and who? Because if it's not how can we make this happen and who do we need to get on board, who is excelling in that area already, who needs some support, this is what we need to do. I'm not a fan of trying to get people to improve their weaknesses. I am a fan of getting them to amplify and increase their strengths so that you bring together teams who actually work as a team. Why? because they can converse like grown-ups, not like children. And unfortunately, a lot of the grown-ups I work with who are professionals don't realize that they actually are conversing like kids in their own heads, not just...
It's like the Haribo advert, isn't it?
Yeah. Perfect.
Look at this one.
Yeah. And actually, why do we all love it? Because we can all relate to it.
Yeah, we can all relate to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, Stephen, is that something that some of the people that you work with, dealers, etc., in your industry, is that something that they are starting to take more notice of, which is that actually we shouldn't really be into this company selling until we start the culture change piece, because otherwise we're just sticking a band-aid on here all the time. We're just being reactive to like, oh, a few people have got a problem and we're going to sell a few things in here, whereas actually until the culture piece gets settled, it's, you know, it's fighting fire, really.
Yeah, seeing a lot more of it, really. People recognizing that if they really want to help support a business with a program or a project, it needs to be wider spread. It can't just be piecemeal. You know, if you just try and do it for one or two people, you're not really addressing the issue. You need, and almost as Vicky said, it's that C-suite down piece sort of thing, isn't it? Really, you've got to change the culture. It's got to come down. If you're just going to focus on one or two people, that's great. You're not actually helping the business. You're helping one or two individuals. It's actually, if one or two individuals need help, the reality is more people do. You need to get everyone buying in. So you're right. I think people are trying to make sure whatever programs they're being engaged in are company-wide and maybe not in people working in silos, not just that department. It has to be the whole business where they need to support the digital workers.
And we won't cover this now because it's a massive subject on its own, etc. But it's then just the big problem of how you reach the people at the top, because those people are so busy. And actually, it's almost the you know, the sort of biggest problem, which is that the companies where the people at the top need this the most are the ones where it's the people at the top who are so busy that they haven't got the time to stop and talk to anyone about what the problem is. Is that fair to say?
I'd say so. Yeah, definitely.
Stop it, folks. Stop it. Stop being so busy.
Yeah.
Listen to Uncle Graham.
Indeed.
Just calm down a little bit. Take 10 minutes. Have a chat with somebody. Honestly, it's not rocket science.
The busyness, I think, and it's interesting that you say that, because then we have to look at, so what is it that they're trying to run away from? What are they escaping with their busyness? Is it because they don't actually want to sit down and see the reality? Because then they might actually have to look at themselves and look at the mistakes that potentially they've made. And if you are somebody who is sitting up here, the chances are you're not really going to want to do that, because there'll be a story running in your head about what that means. And we've got so many stories. And a lot of the time I spend talking to my clients about what are their thought processes, what are their perceptions, interpretations. Again, it comes down to communication, not just external, but the internal, the inner chatter, how we communicate with our own selves, and what are the words we're using. And oftentimes busy people are busy because they're avoiding. They're trying to not do something or think about something that they know actually they really need to.
I think the first thing that any of us ought to do when we go and visit a business is we ought to go and show them the Muppet Christmas Carol. Right? Because
I'm loving this. Go on.
Go on.
Because what does the Muppet Christmas? Well, obviously the Charles Dickens book came first, but what does the Christmas Carol teach us? What does it teach us?
Present, yeah.
Right. It teaches us that actually, if we took ourselves out of the situation and we see what happens when we're not there, right? We really understand, right? Yeah. And ultimately, half the problem I've had with CEOs or whatever, a bit of big banks and whatever that I've had conversations with in the past, has always been ego. They literally can't see how this would look without them in the situation. They assume that this couldn't happen at all without them in the situation. It would be great if they could just for one day be taken out of the equation and they could just see their business running without them, and they go, oh, look at that. It happens without me here. And then they'd understand that actually they do have time to take themselves out of that situation, and then it'd be fine. So yeah, we should all go in. We should watch Christmas Muppets together, and then they go, "Why are we watching this?" And go, "Just think about it." And then we could have a conversation about it. It'd be marvelous.
Vicky can build that into her course. You can build that in that little sort of maybe like a 10-minute segue from Muppets Christmas Carol, and they're gonna be like, "What is this?" And then the penny will drop.
And then you can like segue it in, and you can go, "Hey, that's great." You know?
Brilliant. But isn't there actually a TV show where they do get the CEO does actually go spend a day? And I think it opens up a lot of issues that they genuinely didn't even know were issues.
Yeah.
And I think it is such an interesting concept that I'm going to try and have to do something with that now.
Got to use that. Got to use it.
That's the way. That's why people come on here, just to, you know.
Indeed, and now I've got the theme tune of the Muppets playing in my head.
Oh, you see?
Brilliant.
Never thought we'd get here, did you, at the start of that conversation?
On no other podcast ever can you segue between Wellbeing at Work, Ergonomics, and the Muppets. None. It just doesn't happen on any other podcast.
Only here.
And fabulous.
This is why this is so absolute fabulous is a great word. This is why this is so fabulous, folks. It's why you're so fabulous as an audience as well for supporting it and listening to this, because it's because of you that we come up with this stuff. You know, if you weren't there listening, we wouldn't bother. But because of you, we do. Fantastic. Vicky, it's been great to speak to you today. I didn't get to speak to you about your huge post-it notes in the background, although they are marvelous. And I think if you're going to have post-it notes, why bother with those little ones? Have big ones like that, you know?
Yeah. Top tip, get the extra sticky ones as well, then they don't fall off.
Yeah, you know, why go for something you can only write 2 words on when you can go for something you can put the whole Chinese menu on? It's important, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Vicky, name of the business is Go Figure Coaching and Consulting.
Yes,
correct?
It is.
Yeah, brilliant. And people can find you where? Where's the best place to get hold of you?
I hang out on LinkedIn. I love it on there. Vicky Midwood. I believe there's only one Vicky Midwood. So yeah, come and say hi. I would love to chat.
I'm sure that's a chant on a football terrace somewhere, isn't it? There's
Probably
only one
is.
Vicky Midwood. You never know. So
yeah. Unlike Steve Howe's, of which there's a few. Apparently.
Yeah.
You know, both of them famous in their own lifetime.
Yes.
For very, very different things.
Infamous, famous.
If you've ever heard Steve play guitar, you'll know
but it's not me.
Which one's the right one. There we go. We will be back in a couple of weeks' time with more of the same. But until then, from Stephen, Vicky, and myself, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. Please do go and connect with Vicky on here. We are looking for people that are in the sector to come on here as well. So we're looking for some more people who are in the ergonomics field, etc. Maybe dealers out there. We want to get some of your stories out there. We want to hear about what you've been up to, maybe some of the projects you've been involved with. So if that's you and you're listening, we would love to get you on sometime soon. Please do contact us. Until next time, from all of us, bye for now.